What's up guys, welcome back to part 2 of this editing session, and in this video we are going to just break down all the images that I chose in the last video, the ones that I flagged as keepers. We have here on my screen, as you can see, 23 images that have been flagged as keepers, and you know what, let's just walk through each one and I just want to show you how I go about processing these images for my church. And the first thing I want to get off the bat is that people always ask me what kind of presets that I use for church photography, and I have presets. I have my personal favorite presets that I use mainly for outside, and I also have presets that I use for indoor photography, but usually if there is windows that show some natural light going through them. But for church photography that's indoors, there's too many lights going on. We have orange lights, white lights, orange lights, purples, reds, greens, teals. Every color of the rainbow can be displayed on the platform at once. So, and also we have some natural light coming in through the back windows that we have in the back of our church. And so it's kind of tough to really find the right preset, at least for our church, that's like a one-click solution for every photograph. So normally how we counter that is we just edit from scratch. And so yeah, let's just get started and I'll show you what I mean. So we have this image that we showed from the last video of Jesse Woodrow just worshiping God. And so what I would normally do here is, it's a tad bit dark, but you know what, let's just do a little bit of contrast. So you don't want to go too much. You don't want to do this. This is way too much. You also don't want to go too much with the clarity because it seems to look a bit too fake, and yeah, that looks disgusting. So what I normally do is right here where the contrast is, I usually do between 10 and 20 depending. So let's just do 12 here. Let's do a little bit of clarity here. As you can kind of see in the back of the window, if you kind of keep an eye at this window, I do about 20, and yeah, it's not that bad. You see how the stairs are changing a little bit. I might bring up, that might be a little too much because it blows out the sound room up top. So let's bring down the exposure a bit here. And then what I would do next is, let's kind of get the sharpening. I usually do about 85 normally. And then for the vignettes, I never do a lot. I don't do this, and I don't go the opposite extreme, as if he died and went to heaven. Like, anyway, so what I normally do is what I want to do is just have the edges of the frame subtly brought up, because to me I want the edges of the frame to kind of complete the image, just kind of subtly bring the image together, because if there's no vignettes, I feel that it's just a flat image, and I feel that there is a way that you can do it. If you look in this image right here, let's look at this corner right here. I just feel that if I just did a little bit right like that, not too much, not too white, just enough to kind of bring those corners in, because you just want to make sure that the image is just more well-rounded, I guess you could say. Let's see. And to me, I feel that purple is a little abrasive. I feel that for my personal style, I kind of like it when I use a bluish tint. So if I go down here where it says collaboration, let's do if I crank it up like this, right? This is just, I feel way too much. So now what I can do is just Command Z it, and then I bring the blues a bit. I feel, for my personal taste, I feel that this is fine. I just don't like the purpleness. I've showed the before and after of this. I just feel that blue is a little bit more easier on the eyes. And, you know, I'll make it a little bit back to dark. With the orange on top of here, what I could do a little bit is bring the saturation down to that a little bit. So what I do is I click on this little clicker right here, and I bring it to the image that I want, or the area of the image that I want. I'll click on it, and if you look on the right, you'll see the numbers changing, right? But let me just Command Z that, start over again. I'll just do it a tad bit, not too much though. And yeah, got a little bit down there. I think the blues in the image are fine. And for white balance, we can decide what you want. I feel that it's fine the way it is. Let me see. Yeah, maybe a little bit too blue, maybe a tad bit warmer, but not too much. And then maybe just a tad bit more blue on the right here. Okay, so that's it for that before and after of Jesse. Let's go now to Josiah. Same thing here. So this is on the platform, so that lighting's different than this lighting right here. But I think that it's relatively the same. So what I'll do is I'll bring, let me see, is it brighter? Yeah, I'll bring it down a little bit, the exposure. I'll bring a little bit of contrast, not too much, right? You want to do maybe about 10, let's do about 15 here. Let's do a little bit of clarity. Blacks I think is fine. I don't have to do any highlights or shadows. Everything seems to be fine. Saturation, let's see, let's do the sharpness first. Let's get it down to about 84. Let's bring the vignettes in a little bit. Okay, not too much, about right there is probably fine. Just enough. Let's crop it a little bit. I usually do 4:6. Kind of off to the side a bit more. Okay, that way we have some more dead space over here onto the side. Let's see. So now I feel that his skin might be a little bit warm. Let me just. Is it warm? Yeah. It's all. Yeah. I think it's a little bit too warm. Let's bring it cooler. And then for me, once again, I usually do saturation on his arm. Bring it down a hair, like that. And then of course we have this really, really dark purplish blues here. So now we'll go back down to here, and then if you look at the side of his face right here, when I do the blues, it just kind of neutralizes it a little bit. Now when you do the greens and reds, right? If you look here, when I'm doing the green primary, it's not really much is changing here, except for the back of the image over here. But personally, I like everything more muted, so I would just make it back to 0. When I do reds and primaries here, all the magenta colors, when I go to the far extreme on the red primary, really gold tones, I don't really like that. So once again, you have to figure out what your settings are for your own your church. So when I do the shadows, I don't really touch that a lot either. The only time that I really touch shadows, red primary and green primary, it really depends on what the white balance is. If it's really atrocious, right? Luckily for us at our church, we have really strong white lights hitting the singers, and so that's why I'm able to get nice skin tones right off the bat on the singer. And even with all the other lights surrounding them, it doesn't really faze me that much because we really have a good lighting system. And so if I just do my minor tweaks, I'm pretty much good. We've just been very blessed with some good studio lighting. So let's see, let's go like that. So here's the before, more purplish, a little bit more bluish. All right, so since I finished Josiah's shot here, the next shot is actually him again, but up on the side. And as you can see, it's the same color, lighting and everything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on the previous photo, I'm gonna hit Shift, and I'm gonna select the photo next to it. And then I'm gonna hit Command Shift and S. And what this does is that it brings up a synchronization tool. And what it does is that when I click synchronize, all the settings that were from my previous photo automatically apply to the next one. So now let's go to here, and yep, there it is. When I go to before and after, right, that's the before, and then now that. It's the exact same color palette and everything. What I might do is just bring up the exposure a tad bit. Let's fix the rotation a bit. Let's make it more straight. Okay, that. Okay. And I think a little bit, tad bit too much to the. Let's bring it down a bit. Okay, yeah. So now, there you go. So you have before and after. Let's bring down exposure a tad bit more. There we go. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This one right here is the drummer now. So what I could try is that the drummer is in a little bit more, it's a slightly different lighting scenario than Josiah. So let me see if that color palette works the same. Command, synchronize. Let's see what it did. Okay, so a little bit of a difference here. When I go to the before, right, more bluish. Let's bring up the exposure a bit. Let me do this right here. Let me bring the white balance back. So let me just kind of get that middle ground, because before it was just too blue. So let's kind of bring the white balance up a little bit, get him some more natural color. I think this is probably fine. So now we have a little bit more oranges here. So what I could do is a hue and saturation, but for me, I feel it's easier to do saturation. So let's mute those oranges a little bit. Let's mute the reds a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, this is the before and after. Okay, let's go to the fifth one. Here's the little girl. Now the lighting scenario, let's try with the Jessie Woodrow one. So I'm gonna hit select Jessie Woodrow here. I'm gonna select the girl again. I'm gonna hit Command S. Let's see what it does to the girl. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow. Oh, there it goes. So the colors are not bad. It looks pretty decent. Let's see what else we can do with this. Let's bring up the exposure a tad bit, not too much. Maybe bring the crop up a little bit higher. Oop, not 5.7, let's do 4.6. Let's bring it about here. And then let's do the sides a tad bit. That's probably good. Let's cut off this person's hand right there. Let's do a tad bit more. Okay. Boom, there we go. Let's bring up the exposure a tad bit more. Let's bring down the blacks a bit. Right there, I think the vignette should be fine. Let's do the tad bit more to round out the corners a little bit. Okay, and I think, yeah, I like the white balance is pretty good with what we have. If I can probably bring it down a little bit. See, that seems a little bit too much. I kind of liked it a little bit more warmer. So yeah, let's just keep it like that. I think that's good. Maybe just a tad bit more down. Okay, all right, that's good. Let's do the before and after. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, this is the one with my friend Sarah. Now this is a much different lighting scenario than the previous one with the girl. So how would I handle this? Let's see, let's do not too much contrast, maybe a little bit more clarity. Let's see here. Let's bring up the exposure a tad bit. So luckily she has white on her shirts. What I can do is I can click this white balance tool, find an orange part of her, and click on that. Let's see what it does. Okay, so it does a little bit too blue. So what I could do instead of doing that, I can just customize it myself, kind of get it as close as possible here. Let's do here, bring down the oranges here. That seems relatively fine. Okay, let's get the sharpening down to 80. Let's bring down that vignette a bit, around the corners a bit. Let's see what we can do with that blue primary. I don't want to go too much. See, the more blue that I make it, the more orange it starts to make her skin tones again, which I'm not totally opposed to. It just depends on what the vibe of the image is. So I like that. Now let's bring the saturation down a bit on her head here. And yeah, it's pretty good. We neutralized it a whole lot. Okay, bam, I like that. Let's do a side-by-side comparison. There we go. Yeah, you can do side-by-side comparisons for all of them. Boom, like that. Right, the girl we just did right there. Just side before and after with that. And so as you can see, everything is slowly starting to come together with just minor tweaks, nothing too drastic, just very simple tweaks. So even though this is a wider shot, even though it's predominantly the same lighting as with the Praise Singers, once again, let's just use the same thing. Command-Shift-S. Let's see what it does to our platform. Boom. Okay. Dude, my computer is just grinding right now. Wish I had a Mac desktop, but alas, I just have this MacBook. Alright, that's 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's not bad, but it's really trying to fight me to see. This is pretty good. I like it. I like it as is. I won't really do much with that. Actually, let me see. If I were to do a little bit of the blue, let's see. Not too much, just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Alright. So here's a different lighting scenario. So let's see if the one with the girl goes with her. And also this guy right here on the bottom. He's the guy on the he's the guy on the floor right here. Let's do everybody that's on the altar. Or on the pew, sorry. Let's Command S all of them. So we'll find out eventually what happens to all of them. And let's Command for everybody on the platform with May Butler, Pastor. So let's see if this workflow actually makes things a lot easier for us. Okay. So it's a little bit dark. Let's just bring up a tad bit, but not too much. Kind of like it a little bit darker like that. I think that's fine. Let's go to the next one. Boom. Might be a little bit warm. Let's bring up the, sorry, not the temperature, sorry. Oh, that was ugly green. All right, let's make it a bit cooler. Right there, perfect. Once again, applying all the exact same settings to each photograph. The only thing you might have to do is just exposures. All right, there's probably good. Let's do the crop factor. Like that. Let's bring down the warmness a little bit. Blues, I think, are probably fine. Let's do a little bit of the saturation. I feel like his forehead's a tad bit too warm. Not too much. You don't want to make it look too fake. All right, let's do this right here. Okay, this one is too blue. So what we could do is, first off, let's bring down the exposure a bit. Let's bring up the white balance. Alright, get back to those warmish kind of colors. See the tint, let's see what we can do with the tint. The tint, kind of get it more to realistic when I bring the magentas down. And then now let's see what happens when we do a little bit more blue. Okay, just a tad bit. Go more this way. I think it's fine. Let's bring some more magenta back. And then what we can do also here is bring up some of the shadows. Do I want to go 100%? Nah. Let's kind of get some more shadow, maybe about 60, about 60. Bring some more of the blacks down. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's see what happens in the before and after. Yeah, there we go. Just more cleaner. That's what we're striving for. All right, here's another one of Dane preaching. Very dark silhouette. Let's see what we can do here. Let's bring up some of the shadows. That didn't really seem to do much. So how about instead, let's raise the exposure to about maybe here. Maybe a little bit lower. Probably about there. Bring down some of the highlights on the shoulder pads. There, just kind of get some more detail right there. All right. So I think a little bit too much contrast. Let's bring the contrast down. Let's bring the clarity down. Wanting to get as much dynamic range as possible. Okay, let's do netting here. Corner, it's a little bit fine. Let's bring the straight. Probably drag it. Or no, can't go anymore. So that's probably fine. That's probably good because he's got all this space right here. They can totally put any words if you want. Let's do the white balance a bit. Not too much. And it might be a tad bit warm, so let's get the saturation tool. Boom. All right, here it's highlighting the reds. Just bring down the reds a tad bit, not too much. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you do the saturation and stuff for the entire image, or sorry, for a portion of the image, it'll affect everything else. So you have to be careful and judge for yourself how much of the reds and greens that you want to do. Okay, so let's do, all right, so I applied that same color scheme of the audience to this photo, and obviously, as you can see, it's way too orange. So let's start off first by bringing down the white balance, make it a little bit cooler, and right off the bat, I think that's actually perfect. Let me just make it a little bit brighter. Let's see, I might bring in, no, vignettes are fine. Let's do a tint of oranges and reds. All right, that's it. Let's go to the next one. Right here, same thing. Let's just, I think the exposure is pretty much fine. Same thing, I think I'll just do the saturation here. Just bring it down a tad bit, not too much. I really like the blues a lot. Okay, let's do this right here. All right, this is the pulpit from before. So let me just get the previous one from that one and then bring it, Command Shift S this one. Apply it to the one now with Dane. Let's see now. All right, colors have changed a little bit. Let me just bring down the exposure a bit. You know what, that seems to be a little too dark. Let me just bring down the highlights. That seems to be a little bit better. A little bit more. And then Dane's head's a little bit too orange. So let me just get the saturation again. Oop, I don't want blue, I want orange, there it is. So, perfect, just get a little bit of that side of the image. Fantastic, all right, we got 3 more left. Let's power through this. Let's see here. All right, here's another one of Pastor Butler. Let's just bring down that exposure, it's way too much. And let's see, let's get a pulpit. There you go, let's use one from Dane and apply it to Pastor. Command Shift S. Okay. Alright. So the colors have been muted a little bit more. Bring down the exposure. I think that is pretty good. Maybe a little brighter. Probably like there. Bring down the highlights a bit. Alright. And then let's get some of that white balance. A little bit cooler. Alright. And then you know what? Let's put those same settings on the one Pastor here. All right, here we go. I really adore this image. Not tooting my own horn for capturing a great photo, but I just like Pastor's expression, and it's actually our first photo of him actually giving the I love you sign. I think that's actually good. Boom. Before and after for that. Before and after for that. See here, before and after of Kayleen here, and before and after of Kayleen or Celine here. And as you can see, it's not really crazy editing, it's just minor tweaks. You don't have to go all out and just, you know, think of these crazy presets, because you can actually create your own and apply it to all different photos. All right, that's it. That's how I edit all of my church photographs. And as you saw in the video, there were some pretty complicated scenes that I had to figure out how can I edit them to make them look pleasing to the eye. Now I'll be the first to admit that I am not the best photographer. But if you can just get the basics of white balance, contrast, and clarity, and color collaboration, you'll be surprised with what you can be able to accomplish, especially with low light photography. I would like to do more videos like this and just walk with you guys through my thought process of my editing style and my commentary of why I chose certain images that I consider to be keepers. And if you're a photographer at your church, I would love to see your images. Feel free to send your photos if you would like me to view them and give you my thoughts on them. You can email me at michaelarisPhoto@gmail.com. All right, and that's it. I'll see you in the next video.